It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Wednesday, so over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
And some people don't believe me, but that's actually I don't know if they're still doing it, but for a while that was actually a fashion trend.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
First, before I get into the main story of the morning, and the main story is a doozy, a smoke alert yesterday, a lot of smoke across Wyoming, and there were some air quality alerts. Today, it's better for a good part of Wyoming, and as the day goes on, the winds will continue to make it better, although some of those winds we really don't need around the Togety Pass area with those fires. The bad smoke, really, for most of the day, if you're from KC, Wyoming, all the way up to the Montana border, right up against the mountains there, your air quality is going to suck today. Even Gillette might get a little bit of a break later today when the wind changes direction, but that's just the way things are getting pushed around right now. Okay, so a little while ago, a story popped up that the University of Wyoming volleyball team was going to go ahead and play another university. I think it was San Jose here. And San Jose had a player who claims to be a trans, so a trans athlete. Now, there were some cases, one case in particular in the past, where a volleyball game was played and one of the athletes, biological male, spiked the ball and just knocked out, literally, a young lady on the other side. So can this be dangerous? Yeah, right. There's problems with this. So at first, University of Wyoming ladies were going to go ahead and play anyway. Now that's changed. Story I have for you on the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning. University of Wyoming's women's volleyball team decided to forfeit their game against San Jose State over the opposition to the team's transgendered player. Originally, again, UW decided to play, but then pressure built. Now, pressure came from many different areas, but in part the Wyoming legislative body. A letter was penned, signed by quite a few members of the House and Senate. Now, remember, the House and Senate wanted to get rid of the DEI program. We'll get into that, which I've been advocating for years. Get that out of the University of Wyoming. We don't need a diversity office and officer. We can save that money. But get those other programs out as well. Here's what the letter said. Since UW was DEI program and Department of Diversity and Equity and Inclusion was defunded, so they're using that as they pen this letter. It says, after a lengthy discussion, the University of Wyoming will not play its scheduled conference against San Jose University, Wals Sports Complex, Saturday, October 5th. And that's from Nick Seaman, UW's Assistant Athletic Director. Per Mountain West Conference policy, the conference will record the match as a forfeit and a loss for Wyoming. The Cowgirls will host Fresno State Thursday, October 3rd. Which is tomorrow. All right, so Governor Mark Gordon on X, or Twitter, if you will, backed the decision. Governor writes, I am fully in support of the decision by WYO Athletics to forego playing its volleyball match against San Jose State. It's important that we stand for integrity and fairness in female athletics. So minds were changed. Again, I'll read part of it for you, but that letter penned by the Wyoming House and Senate, that changed quite a few minds on this and put some pressure on. A letter was addressed to UW President Ed Seidel and Athletic Director Tom Berman, and it reads in part, quote, "The legislature has been very clear that the University of Wyoming, being a publicly funded land-grant institution, should not participate in the extremist agenda of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, or propagate the lie that biological sex can be changed. We all know it cannot." Now, again, this is what came from the Wyoming legislative body. Lawmakers recently defended UW's diversity, equity, or defunded, program, and which I told you about just a moment ago. The Wyoming's, and this is a quote again, the Wyoming citizens were very clear in the last election cycle in which category rejected incumbents and candidates who support policies promoting or failing to stop this woke agenda, the letter read. So, in other words, the governor backs the idea and supports the girls for not playing and forfeiting the match. It was pushed by Wyoming legislators, House and Senate, when they penned a letter and several signed it and they sent it to the university president. And so they're just going to pass on this game. Now, they're not the only school doing it. UW is not the only school to do it. 2 other universities had backed out across the country from the same match. So Wyoming's now the 3rd university to say, we're not going to do this. We'll see where it goes from here. And there was some pushback. There's Wyoming Equality and some other groups on the left here in Wyoming who push back against the idea. No, we should absolutely play. Well, okay. It's already been cited that University of Wyoming is defunding programs like this and should be focusing on mainly education and not indoctrination, as the Wyoming House and Senate put it when they started to defund programs like this. So at this point, the game's not going to be played. They switched their decision. Originally they were going to play it. But then here comes the pressure. Now they're not going to play it. So we'll wait to see if this is the end of this debate. I don't know. Because at some point, and I don't know what their schedule is, as they go through the roster of who they have to play, do they come up against San Jose again this season? Will they come up against San Jose next season with the same player? Will this player stick with San Jose if schools start dropping out? Now, so far it's only 3. But if more schools start dropping out, the question is, at some point, does this player say, never mind, and leave? How does this play out? We have a long way to go on it, but this particular game is already a done deal that we're not going to play. We're just going to forfeit it. And what they want is very simple. If it's a girls' volleyball team, it is biological females that are playing. That's what they want, nothing more. Chet and Yoder, let's see. Oh, Chet said, I was cruising TV last night and saw an actual debate. Did you like that? It was an actual real-life debate? I've seen bits and pieces of it, Chet. I didn't see the whole thing. But it sounds to me like, yeah, they actually went back and forth on ideas, although the network did at one point they said they weren't going to do any fact-checking, like they did with Trump, where they kept trying to fact-check Trump but not Harris. And also, when it comes to fact-checking, it's been shown these networks just suck at it. So I'll play for you a little piece where J.D. Vance turns to the moderator and lets her have it for doing something that the network promised they weren't going to do, but also points out how bad their fact-checking is. We'll have to do that in just a couple minutes. 6:15 is the time. Wake up, Wyoming.
Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get started for you today?
Yeah, can I just get a cheeseburger?
Okay, is that going to be offered today?
Yeah, it's going to be offered today.
All right, it's going to be $378.19.
Well, actually, I don't need the cheese. You can take the cheese off.
No cheese?
Yeah, let's do no cheese. No cheese.
All right, that brings your total down to $312.17.
That sounds better.
All right, and are you going to be paying in full or will you be financing?
Yeah, I'll be financing today.
Okay.
Let's do the finance.
All right, and after interest, your total will be $61 a month for 6 months.
All right.
First window, please. Thank you.
weekend.
Covering world-ending catastrophes for years to come. It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Find content, chat live, and listen on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
So pile on here over the debate last night. So I'm guessing you folks out there watched more of the debate than I did, because again, I watched bits and pieces when I got to work this morning, and I just found myself really not interested in the whole thing, although there were a few pieces that stood out to me. Now, DJ up in Gillette, DJ, I've heard this joke from several people, and it's funny. She said, JD won the debate against 3 women. Yeah, the 2 moderators and... So, yes, there was 3 women that he was debating last night. And it's also true against the moderators, because although they did lie and try to fact-check a few times, and I do think the debate is still skewed more toward the Democrat candidate than the Republican candidate still. Of course, they tried to fact-check Vance, but they're really not trying to against Wals in any way. All right. Big Red. Why can't they get a far-right individual, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Dan Bongino? I said, okay, well, here's a thought. What if they had a debate and they had someone far left, like from MSNBC, and a far right, like a Sean Hannity, as the moderators? That would be interesting, although I think that would really devolve into something. There's got to be out there some... television news moderators who are actually able to play the impartial role rather than what we've been seeing out there. But I like it because it does show how biased the news media is. Even when they're trying not to be biased, it shows how biased they are. I think it's really revealing to the American public, much like when Biden first got out to debate Trump. This is the first time much of the nation was able to see Joe Biden unedited, and the nation realized how bad he really is, his cognitive disability. There was no editing that. So during a debate, one of the things I like to watch is the news media reveal how bad, biased, irresponsible, and inept they really are. They usually do these are our best moderators. Really? That's what you got? And these are our top journalists. Are they? That's your top, huh? Okay. There was this moment I thought, me with the cult of climate change. Vance really nailed it on this one.
I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Now, of course, I would want to, and I'm glad he did that, I would want to argue the point CO2 is not a pollutant. But he's right. Then you have to get into the whole debate about, because so many people in America grew up listening to the argument that it is. And so I would have to undo all of that. And during the debate like this, there's not time to do that. So I think he did the right thing in that case in just saying, look, okay, we'll just assume it is a pollutant. Okay, it's running climate change. If that's the case, then why are you pushing all of our energy overseas? And for that matter, worldwide human carbon emissions are at an all-time high, and they continue to grow. So this whole idea that the world's going to go carbon neutral, really? Not going to. Isn't going to happen. Use of coal, gas, and oil is at an all-time high worldwide. It's not going down. It's going up. And a big part of that is our demand here in America that we've sent overseas. So in other words, if you want to manufacture things, this is, you're going to have to use this stuff. You're going to have to use petroleum, for example. I saw a picture. There's a guy in Colorado. He's driving a Tesla, and his vanity plate license plate says LOL oil, laugh out loud oil. I don't think he realizes his vehicle could not be built without petroleum products. So much of our manufacturing is going overseas, which is increasing those carbon emissions that they worry so much about. This, to me, is a lot. Not connecting the dots has a lot to do with what I had said to you guys yesterday. It's a great meme. It shows all of the vehicles that have gone up into the Carolina mountains to clear out those towns and restore power lines and electricity. And none of them are electric vehicles. The bulldozers and all the other equipment, including the linemen who have to rebuild the entire electrical grid. And they cannot bring electric vehicles up there because there's no electricity, unless they want to bring up a bunch of diesel generators. So you see what I mean? They're not connecting the dots in all of this. And that's the argument that Vance made there, which I think was really well done. 642. Let's get an extended weather forecast from Don Day. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
The only show broadcasting from a bunker under Devil's Tower. Hey, it's cold down here. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, 6 a.m. weekdays on AM 1030 and FM 95.1.
Oh, I did.
Yes, okay.
So we got some Twix, got some Reese's.
Uh-huh.
There's something else in there that I like.
I got the good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what those eyeballs are. I'm not touching them.
The eyeballs are just looking at you, that's all.
Oh, I know.
They're basically like ping pong balls that look at you. It's Halloween stuff.
I don't like to be watched.
Now, if you want something fun, when you step out of that studio there, clap your hands.
When you get out of the studio,
really
clap your hands.
Yeah, that's right. Just one really loud clap. About when you're under the ghost dog. Just clap your hand really loud. Yeah, the ghost dog is hanging right in front of basically the IT room there.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And then you'll have fun.
Does it drop
with that.
more candy?
No, it doesn't. But the candy bowl will remain full, which you don't have to worry about, Frank, because you're one of those guys who never gets fat.
Right, and I'll grab 2 pieces a day because you got to have that sugar and chocolate.
Obviously, it's your morning boost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Now, for those people who don't know what we're talking about, since I was born just before Halloween, it's my holiday. And so I decorate the hallway that goes down to all of our radio studios. It gets decorated, and every Halloween I add a few more things. So this morning this year, I added some spiders. Some big ones, too.
Yeah, they're like tarantulas.
Yeah, that one that guards the bowl.
Well, if you introduce yourself, I think his name is Boris.
Yeah, okay, we're going with Boris on that one. Okay.
Yeah, you've heard of the old song, Boris the Spider?
No, I haven't. I'll have to look that one up now.
It's from The Who. It's a rock and roll.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I know who The Who is.
Yeah.
But now I'll have to look up who Boris the Spider is because I've never heard that kind of thing before. Yeah. I did have to go back to the store to pick up some zombie apocalypse things.
Like?
If you notice the bloody handprints.
You buy a bloody handprint at the store?
Well, I could have either made a bloody handprint for real, but that would have hurt.
No.
Or I could just buy one that's basically a sticker that I just slap on the wall.
That's easy, yeah.
That's a whole lot easier there. And you might have noticed the caution tape when you were walking through the door.
I didn't.
You see, Frank, you don't notice anything but the candy, do you?
Right, yeah. I saw the bowl.
That was it.
I looked in the bowl.
Oblivious to everything else.
Okay. Yeah, all righty. Well, in college athletics, the University of Wyoming volleyball team will not play San Jose State this week due to San Jose State having a transgender player. Cowgirl volleyball team obviously had a significant amount of input in this decision not to play with issues of fairness and safety at the forefront. San Jose State player in question is redshirt senior Blair Fleming, who is an outside hitter for the Spartans with 119 kills so far this year. Female athletes have been very, very vocal about biological males playing against them, and Boise State also refused to play San Jose State. UW will forfeit the match that was scheduled for in Laramie for this weekend, and San Jose State, by the way, is 9-0 on the season. High school volleyball, Riverton beat Natrona in 5 sets last night. Glen Rock over Rollins in 3 sets. Tonight, Laramie, the number 1 rated team in 4A, will be at Cheyenne East, and Cheyenne South will be at Cheyenne Central. Junior college volleyball, Casper College is 4-17 after a road loss over Central Wyoming in 4 sets, and a 3-0 win over Northwest of Powell. T-Bridge will host Western Wyoming from Rock Springs tonight at 6 p.m. at the Erickson Gym. The OCCC volleyball team is 6-14 after a 5-set win over Gillette College on Friday, and a 4-set loss to Western Nebraska on Tuesday. Thursday. The Golden Eagles will host Central Wyoming on Friday. In the National Football League, a few former Wyoming Cowboys were in action on Sunday for their respective teams. Casper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson had 10 tackles in the Bengals' 34-24 win over Carolina. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen had a rough Sunday night game against Baltimore. He was just 16 of 29 for 180 yards as the Bills lost to the Ravens. And 35-10. New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson had 2 tackles in the Saints' 26-24 loss to Atlanta. Our latest WyoPreps high school football poll is out. Sheridan remains number 1 in 4A with Campbell County 2, Cheyenne East 3, Natrona 4, and Kelly Walls 5. Star Valley and Cody are still 1, 2, and 3A, followed by Buffalo, Douglas, and Riverton. In 2A, Mountain View and Bighorn still 1-2 with Worland 3rd, Level 4th, Cokeville 5th. 1A 9-man, Lingo, Fort Laramie, and Pine Bluff still 1-2 with Saratoga 3rd, Lust 4th, and Southeast 5th. And in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River and Encampment still 1-2 with Burlington 3rd, Meeteetse 4th, and Riverside 5th. And that's it in sports.
So I believe UW forfeited in that game. There's now 3 universities who have stepped out of the game altogether.
Right. And who knows? And there's now San Jose State's supposed to play like Colorado State next. And you're wondering, well, who is going to cancel and who's not going to cancel? I mean, they're entitled to do so. Right. I mean, here's the whole discussion. I mean, males, females. I think you figured that out at birth, don't you?
Kind of do, and also. The Wyoming House and Senate, along with the governor, pulled funding on UW for their diversity program and things like this. So there was a letter that came from the members of the Wyoming House and Senate, along with a note from the governor, thanking them for stepping out, but also pressuring them to step out in the first place over this.
You know what? The volleyball players, I think, ultimately made the decision.
I think you're right about that. But, I was talking earlier this morning about how they received some letters from Wyoming state government saying, UW, and it went directly to the president of the university.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local news, national news, weather forecast, Wake Up Wyoming.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
A showdown of the running mates. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment.
Tim Wals making the case against the former president.
Donald Trump was the guy who created the largest trade deficit in American history with China.
J.D. Vance countered in the CBS News vice presidential debate.
If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago.
And he blames the vice president for record illegal immigration.
You've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations.
The two also sparred over gun violence and threats to democracy, but agreed the U.S. must support Israel the day after Iran's missile barrage, and the fighting continues.
Israeli forces are confirming that at least one soldier was killed earlier today while fighting in southern Lebanon.
Fox's Trey Yingst also reports from Haifa, Israel. Hezbollah keeps firing rockets across the border. Crews are still out searching for people still unaccounted for in all of Hurricane Helene's devastation. There are at least 161 deaths in 6 states. And Fox's Tanya J. Powers reports
3 of those are Megan Dry's son, Micah, and her parents, Michael and Nora Dry. They had all climbed to the roof of their Asheville, North Carolina home for safety when Megan says powerful floods tore through it.
I thought we were okay still until the house broke apart and until everything started to collapse. Devastation. I was terrified, but in that moment, all I thought about was being a mom.
All 4 were swept downstream. Megan was eventually rescued, but Micah's body was found about a quarter mile away. Megan says her grief is, quote, unfathomable, but told Fox she's thankful for the prayers she has received.
President Biden will get an aerial tour of the damage in North Carolina today. Vice President Harris will see storm damage in Georgia days after former President Trump went there. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back. But what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax-advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 9898.
Here is the latest from K2 Radio News.
First reported by Tom Morton with Oil City News. A Casper man pleaded not guilty on Tuesday to driving over and trapping a fellow Frosties bar patron under his truck in May. On May 22nd, 55-year-old James Sack allegedly walked back into Frosties and reported an emergency. Police, firefighters, and ambulance crews responded to the parking lot to find a victim pinned under Sack's truck. He was freed and taken to the hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Witnesses in the bar told police that Sack and the victim had been inside drinking for several hours. A blood draw was conducted at the jail, and the results are pending. During his initial appearance in Natrona County Circuit Court, Sack said he was a lifelong Casper resident, except for the 6 years he spent serving in the Army. At the hearing today, where he entered a not guilty plea, the court agreed to keep his bond at $15,000 cash or surety. A trial will be set for a later date. As work continues on Interstate 25 through Casper, 2 closures are planned to help move the projects closer to completion. The first is scheduled for Wednesday, that's today, October 2nd from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and it affects the southbound off-ramp to Poplar Street only, that's exit 188B. And the southbound off-ramp traffic will need to use the Shoshone Bypass exit, that's exit 189, to Events Drive and then south on Poplar Street. This closure will allow the contractor to move concrete barricade for a temporary off-ramp as the new permanent off-ramp is rebuilt. This closure is expected to last about 10 hours. The second one is on Monday, October 14th from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. This will affect both lanes of travel between the Shoshone Bypass and Bryan's Stock Trail. Traffic will be diverted to Events Drive and Amico Road, as has been done during previous closures. All northbound traffic will exit at Bryan Stock Trail, and all southbound traffic will exit at the Shoshone Bypass interchange. This closure is expected to last 6 hours and will allow the contractor to perform maintenance and install additional traffic control through the Center Street to Poplar Street area. And last thing I have is that a list of all-state golf honors for the 2024 high school season was released by the Wyoming Coaches Association on Tuesday. The top 10 finishers in each classification, including ties, are selected all-state in golf. 2 players earned All-State all 4 years of their prep career, and those 2 are Austin Kristen of Kemmer and Logan Timmerman from Upton. 4 more golfers received All-State for a 3rd time in their high school career. And one of those is Kelly Walsh's Isaac Schmidt. He is All-State this year, and he was All-State 2002 and 2023. Also in the 4A boys division with Kelly Walsh, Kobe Pexton is an All-State honor this year, and Natrona County had 2 students, Dallin Atnip and Jackson Bratton. In the 4A girls division, 2 Kelly Walsh students made All-State, and that's Madeline Key and Chloe Romo.
Enjoy happy hour. Get 50% off all washes at Wash and Glow Car Wash from 5 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. Visit 4055 Plaza Drive next to the West Side Walmart. Ask about our tire package. Sunny but windy. Temperatures will be upper 70s to near 80 degrees. West winds 15 to 30, gusts to 40. Lows tonight near 40. It'll be cooler for your Thursday. Dry. Highs just 60s, upper 30s Thursday night, back to the low 80s Friday. Highs will be in the 70s for the weekend.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday, so over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
And I have to look it up, because for a little while there, that was like a fashion trend or something like that.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
In the 8 o'clock hour, 8:06, I will have VA Undersecretary Paul Lawrence. He's going to talk to us about last night's debate, which we did talk about in the last hour and can talk about again. If you want to jump in on that, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. I did also post a story this morning. Air quality in Wyoming yesterday was not all that good across most of the state. Today, because of wind direction, most of it is being pushed out of the area. However, this is where the worst of it is. If you are, let's say, in Du Bois area, you're heading on over to Rawlins, for example, bad there, because of the fire that's up in the Togety Pass area. If you are on the eastern side of the Bighorn Mountains, and I'm talking from KC all the way up to past Sheridan, you're going to have a lot of smoke today, obviously because of the fire up there. Most other places, even Gillette, will get a little bit of a break today just because of wind direction. And it's interesting to see the forecasted wind directions are coming in from different angles today. Depends on where you are. So Gillette will get more of a wind coming in from the east, while if you're down further south of there, you might get a wind coming in from the west. Unfortunately, the winds will pick up a bit over the Togety Pass area, which will help fan those flames even more. But, okay, that's just the smoke update, because I know yesterday was kind of nasty for quite a few people. Don Dane, his weather forecast is going to come on at 7:45 to give a little breakdown of all of that. Still no rain in the forecast. Also, touched on it a little bit earlier this morning, might get into it again a little bit later on. University of Wyoming ladies volleyball is not going to play San Jose because one of the team members on the San Jose team is transgendered, and they got a problem with that. And they're not the only school that does. 3 schools total now have just forfeited the match, saying we're not doing that. So it's supposed to be a ladies' team. All right, something completely different. Just now and then I like to get into this with you guys. We have to have a reality check. And oftentimes the best person to listen to give a reality check to, is someone who's young. Now, I've played clips like this before. This is a young lady who got into her car and shut the door. A very attractive young lady. Looks like she just graduated college. But she's literally, when she's recording this, she's crying. Because life is not what she thought it was going to be.
Does anyone else just work their ass off for like the last 3 or 4 years for like a college degree, and now you have a job that you hate and you still can't afford life and you're still miserable and you can't pay any of your bills and you can't live in the house that you imagine, and you just feel lied to because you thought that if you just went to college and got a degree you'd be able to afford a house and like things that make you happy, but yet you're still barely can afford groceries or clothes or literally anything that makes you happy at all, and you had to spend the whole entire weekend in your bed because you literally don't have any money to go do anything. Like if you buy food, you just can't have an entertainment budget. So I'm just wondering if anyone else is dealing with something like this, or if it's just me.
Okay, not just you. Just tossing that out there, young lady. Not just you, just so you know. And again, very attractive young lady. I'm not going to say anything rude about her. I mean, she went to college. She did good. She's trying to do all the right things. But she just had a different idea. That, okay, I was going to get out of college with this degree, and I was going to get this nice house, and kumbaya, and unicorn farts, and all that. And it's not working out that way for her. I guess nobody told her how hard things can really be. And by the way, it's not just your generation. This is not a new thing. We can go not just across the nation, but across the world, and it's like this. And she also needs to understand, since she's in America, as broke as she is, I mean, she's young, so she's broke. And as broke as she is, she still lives in America. She does not want to live in many other countries around the world where things are far worse than what she's experiencing. So she's suffering through first world problems. But not just, let's take a look at people worldwide always struggling, but let's just take it the human race in general has always been struggling. I tell you what brought the human race to a level of comfort like we've never experienced before was capitalism. Because before that, boy, you want to struggle? Wow. Try living life before capitalism came around. Holy cow. Were things really bad? But let's take a look at her problem. In today's age, in today's context, she thought, okay, I struggle really hard. I get that degree. I go get that dream job, and I go get that dream house, and kumbaya. Not going to work out that way for everybody. For some people, yes. Some people actually do sort of hit the jackpot, if you will, that they do have a good job that they enjoy. It may or may not come with a college degree, depends on what your degree is in, which is another thing I would like to ask her. What is your degree in exactly? I'd like to know. Did you get a degree that's worthwhile? Or did you get one of those garbage degrees, which is why you can't get a job like the one that you want? Okay, now this is not the first time I've played audio like this. I've played some other people about her age, both male and female, that's really confused. So here I am, I graduated, I got out into the real world, where's my American dream? And there's the next thing. For the vast majority of people, achieving that American dream takes a while. I mean, I'm like, I think most of you out there, when I first started out, man, I was broke. Held 2 jobs, at some point even 3, to get my career started here. And all I did was work. And daytimes, mornings, nights, weekends, I was exhausted all the time. And success came and went, and came again and went again, over a period of time, just because of circumstance. Not necessarily because I was doing anything wrong, but there's welcome to life. And that's just the way things are. So when she gets at the end of what she just said there, she's asking, is it anybody else or is it just me? Young lady, it's not just you. But I think really no one ever explained this to her. And I think that's where she's having a hard time and is frustrated beyond belief. Morning, Shorty. Shorty's in Casper. And Mike from Leeds, South Dakota. I tell you what, I'll read your comments on the air coming up right after this news and information break. I did, actually, again, I'm not at all disappointed in that young lady. I just wish someone had told her a little bit more about what life was going to be like.
The person you have dialed has reached their people limit for the day. Please hang up and try back tomorrow.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
888-97 Woods the phone number, or 888-97-WOODS, or do what a lot of other people are doing. They're sending me text messages off the Wake Up Wyoming app. So what you do is you can download the app for free. Just Wake Up Wyoming. There it is. You can do a lot with it. We won't charge you for anything. And when I'm on the air, you can hit the chat button and send me text messages, and I answer back both on and off the air. So, Shorty's in Casper. He says, the debate last night was by far the best debate that I have seen in years. I don't know much about either candidate, but I think J.D. Vance was outstanding, and I could see him as the next presidential candidate. And I do think Vance is really surprising everybody, especially because he is so well-spoken, so well-prepared. Again, like the guy or not, he's well-spoken, well-prepared, and I think he did an outstanding job in the debate last night. Now, for the next story, University of Wyoming girls volleyball decided not to play San Jose because one of their players is transgendered, and they're the third university to say we're not going to do that. Well, Mike from Leeds, South Dakota says he's not transgendered, he's a dude. And I think that's why the lady said we're not doing this. And they're not the only ones. 3 universities have so far, and the governor of Wyoming supports that and the decision. And the Wyoming House and Senate had also sent some members a note to the university president putting pressure on him, don't play this game. Here's why. Because we're trying to basically the letter said we're trying to get rid of DEI at the University of Wyoming, so let's not do this. And also, this is the same Wyoming House and Senate that got rid of the same kind of thing in the middle school and high school sports here in the state of Wyoming. So that's why they sent the letter. But the girls' volleyball team ultimately made the decision to forfeit the game. We're just not going to play that. Now, Big Red in Hawk Springs, so many young people are oblivious to reality. So if you're wondering what he's talking about, I want to play this again for you. This is where I'll say, in defense of this young lady, nobody told her. She's a very attractive young lady. She's sitting in her car recording this, and she's in tears. Now, this is not the first time I played audio like this from a person of this age. And she's got some questions.
Does anyone else just work their ass off for like the last 3 or 4 years for like a college degree, and now you have a job that you hate and you still can't afford life and you're still miserable and you can't pay any of your bills and you can't live in the house that you imagine, and you just feel lied to because you thought that if you just went to college and got a degree you'd be able to afford a house and like things that make you happy, but yet you're still barely can afford groceries or clothes or literally anything that makes you happy at all, and you had to spend the whole entire weekend in your bed because you literally don't have any money to go do anything. Like if you buy food, you just can't have an entertainment budget. So I'm just wondering if anyone else is dealing with something like this or if it's just me.
It's not just you, and it's worldwide, and it's been this way for the entire human race. This is not a new thing, and nobody told her this. She has the advantage of she does live in America, so she is still more comfortable than most people around the world are. She should appreciate that. By the way, young lady, there are those people who struggle their entire lives and never get out of that situation. Okay? So it's not easy for some people. It's not all just a daydream. But nobody told her this. And also, I still want to know, got a college degree in what? And if she had gone to trade school, would she have gotten a trade that because there are people who get out of trade school and they go to work and they're making good enough money, even though they're just starting out. They're not making the best money they'll ever make in their life because they're just starting out. But they'll at least do well enough so they can get a nice apartment and enjoy some life. At an early age, they'll do pretty well. I think the next problem, though, is, and I'm not saying she has this problem, a lot of Americans spend money like just a bunch of idiots. Even successful Americans blow money on all sorts of stupid things, and they wonder why they're broke all the time. And it's not that Americans don't make enough money. We do. But we don't spend it wisely or even save it wisely like generations before us did. And then they wonder why they're broke all the time. I see memes all the time on the internet. There was a time when just the father could go to work and mom could stay home with the kids and they could afford a nice house and a car. And you can still do that today more than ever before. But again, Americans, every time they get a paycheck, they go out and spend like it's Christmas. And then they wonder why they don't have any money. Well, you're making more money than your parents or your grandparents or great-grandparents did. But the way you spend it and the way you don't save it is a huge problem. So nobody explained it to this young lady. So I don't look at her as stupid or woke or anything. It's naive. And being naive does not mean stupidity. It just means nobody told you. Now, again, this is not the first time I played audio from a young lady like this, or even just someone of her generation. They seem really confused because they take a look at successful people. They look at a nice neighborhood, people with nice cars. Why don't I have that? Well, you got to work toward it. And if you really do want all of those things, you're going to spend a lot of time struggling to make it. And it's not going to be easy, just so you know. And there will be setbacks. So welcome to life and welcome to the human race. It's not just you. But again, I think nobody ever told her this. You just go get that college degree and by gosh, everything just sort of happens for you and falls in place. I do think it's what's happening to her is a good thing. But all someone has to do is let her know. Now's the time in your life, now that you've seen this, that you've seen the struggle, that you start figuring out what you're going to do about it. So many people find themselves in this situation, and that's okay. And the question is, so what are you going to do about this? How are you going to get out of this? Fire Pit Paul from Cheyenne. New bumper, guaranteed entertainment or double your admission back. Oh, you mean for this program here? Absolutely. Okay, yes, we'll do a double your money back promo. And Reefer and Carpenter, Wyoming. Glenn, hold on. You owe me a second letter N. So, Reefer, if you'll go back to the app and just type the letter N and send it to me, and I'll insert it in my name. It's 2 N's. It's not Glenn. It's Glenn. You see the difference there? You see? Okay, anyway. He's not a tranny. He's a manny, and I'm glad folks are standing up for our girls. Okay. Well, again, if you're wondering what he's talking about, if you just joined us, University of Wyoming girls volleyball team will not be playing San Jose because one of their players, as they say, is transgendered, or as these folks are saying, is a guy. And so if that's the case, it's supposed to be girls volleyball, and we separate girls volleyball from boys volleyball for a reason. In fact, in general, sports are separated male and female, for biological reasons. And so University of Wyoming, this is the third team, UW is, to decide just to forfeit and not play San Jose University in volleyball until they actually have a girls volleyball team that is all girls. Then it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the long run, because right now there's just teams dropping out, forfeiting. So the long game on this is going to be interesting to see how even San Jose decides to do this, or even the league itself. I don't know the answer to this, but it's interesting. 3 universities so far have dropped out, including UW. Is there going to be more? And if so, what kind of impact does that have on the sports? And will San Jose say, okay, fine, women only? It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. This is why I just kind of sit back, put my feet up, grab some popcorn, and go, okay, so what next? Coming up on 7:30, local news coming away after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Don Day joins us, 7:45. He's got that extended weather forecast, which is still really dry and a bit on the windy side. But the temperatures, talk about a yo-yo. Yeah, we'll talk about that. 7:45 with Don Day. Wake up.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1. Weekdays at 6.
Wyoming, Don Day will update your weather forecast. Some good news for some people regarding smoke today. We'll get that update too. 7:45 is when I have him on. So Joel from Laramie, I think, has a good point here. I played some audio earlier. Young lady in tears, and she's talking about how she got her college degree. She went out to start life, and she's broke. And on days off, she just lays around in bed because she can't afford to do anything, can't even afford to leave the house. And is it just me? And the answer is no, young lady, it wasn't just you, and no one gave you a reality check at all. Nobody told you how starting out in life is going to be. Especially and it's always going to be that way unless you decide to make some changes, do some things differently than you're doing. So Joel says, you're missing some of the point with that gal asking those questions. She flat out states, Joel says, that she was lied to. Yes, well, no one told her about the life they planned. Fact is, she and her generation have been, or to have been, just spend that money on the degree and everything just happens. Yeah, and I think you're right about that. She's in that stage of life where she was told, go get your degree and then get out there and get into the world, and here's this wonderful life that you're going to have. And she did all of that. She did all the work. She got the degree. So where's her nice house? And she does say that. Where's her nice house? Where's her nice car? She's buying old secondhand clothes. She's living in a crappy apartment. She can't afford to leave when she has a day off. What is she supposed to be? Why is life this way? Is it just me? No, young lady, it's not just you. In fact, many of us started off that way, even though we had good degrees, career plans, and so on. So, yeah, young people definitely need a reality check. That's why I say I don't want to give that young lady a hard time. Okay. She was sold a real big bill of goods on what her life was going to be like, if she just got that degree and got out into the real world. And it turned out not to be that way. So what do you mean I have to struggle for all of this? This is not what she was told. She was lied to. Real quick, I want to go up to Dayton, Wyoming, which is just above Sheridan. And I've reposted people up in that town. By the way, beautiful town. If you go up above Sheridan, if you've never done this, wait till the fire's over because Highway 14 is still closed. But if you go up to Sheridan and go up past Sheridan to Highway 14, then head west up into the mountains, up and over. Gorgeous little town. I've actually stood at an overlook at the top of Highway 14 looking east down, and just it opens up. I mean, the prairie below. And helped a couple of hang gliders who are jumping off of there because they like to go over to that overlook and hang glide down. They'll actually hang glide way up above the mountains and then come on down and land in the schoolyard, usually, which is down in Dayton. That's a pretty little town. They have been worried in Dayton because of the fire. That big fire has gotten really close to their town, and including their school. And what's nice is this will help. A lot of the timber on the way down the mountain peters out before it turns into a grass fire, essentially, which is helpful anyway. Not perfect. That can still burn everything down, but better than a big timber fire. So, the story here from Cowboy State Daily says, nestled at the foot of the Bighorn Mountains, the tiny Wyoming town of Dayton, usually quiet, peaceful, about 830 people. See, that's why even I do it. When I talk about this fire, I keep saying north of Sheridan because who knows where Dayton is. Quote, people are pretty nervous. They stay awake all night, high alert. And that's town councilman Bobby Logan speaking. He says, I was heading toward Montana and into Park, and it was closed in quite a few places. The wind changed, blew it all right back in our faces. And that was something they had to put up with yesterday. Wind direction changed, and all of a sudden, Dayton's in big trouble as the fire's blowing directly at them. Flames fanning, all of that. So it came right up to the town limits, right up to the back door of their school. But then, thankfully, switched directions, went right back up again. Now, today's weather, in fact, while I'm talking about this, I'll go ahead and look it up. There's a app if you want to know where the fire and where the smoke is going. I use this a lot. It's called Windy. And it gives a visual representation of what the wind is doing. And then you can go ahead and click around and get some numbers. So currently, if you get up into that area, go from Casey all the way up to the Montana border, up to 25. There's no wind at all. Now, good news is it's not fanning the flames. Bad news is all of that smoke is just hanging right there. Now, as I'm going up to the forecast for the wind, good news for those people in Gillette, Moorcroft, Wright, Casey, Sundance, the wind is going to be blowing from the northeast coming down at you. But for those people up and down I-25 at the base of the Bighorn Mountains, you guys are pretty much in a null area. In fact, if anything, the wind is going to blow all of that smoke right back at you and fan those flames again. So we'll have to keep you posted, and we will during the course of this week and into the weekend, because this is one of the worst fires that we've had, as well as the one over the Togety Pass area. So I'll ask Don Day about it next. 742, Wake Up Wyoming.
And we're back. Sorry, we were busy tricking pescatarians into eating Rocky Mountain oysters. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
So talk with your kids about these issues and involve the members of your community to help keep your kids safe. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information, visit talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
7:45 is the time off. We go to talk to Don Day, day weather. So, okay, here's the good and the bad, Don. On the one hand, it's nice to see as the wind picks up and changes some direction, where I'm at and a few other places are going to see some smoke clear out. That's good news. Bad news is for those people in and around those fires, they're going to be hung up with a lot of smoke stuck in their area. And we're fanning the flames, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I mean, honestly, this is one of these situations where, yes, the weather's lovely, but
couple of cold, rainy days would certainly be nice, but that's just not in the cards. It's just we're stuck here for a bit longer.
Okay, now let's define a bit longer. And yes, I will be nagging you about that until finally it ends.
Yeah, well, if nagging works, I'm all for it. I'm not so sure it will.
Yeah.
But what we have is a pattern where little low-pressure systems will move right along the U.S.-Canadian border. That keeps the rain and snow in the Great White North. But when storms go north, we get windy, and we also get warm ahead of these, cooler behind them. So today a warm, windy day, tomorrow a cooler day, less wind. Then you could probably expect what's going to happen Friday. We warm up, get windy again, and then we cool down again by the end of the weekend. The best chance of moisture stays far to our north. And honestly, Glenn, I think we keep our expectations very low through probably the weekend after this one, before we really have anything on the table that looks significant. Now, that might change, but right now it looks like it's going to be a pattern that'll be very stubborn.
And when you look at our swinging temperatures, if folks are wondering what to wear, you do the Wyoming thing. You bring a little bit of everything and just throw it in the backseat of your car.
Yeah, light jacket, sweatshirt weather in the mornings. Then you don't need it in the afternoons. That's for sure. Dress in layers.
Right, and be careful because I've already had to correct myself in this. I put on a sweater and I show up to work and I take the sweater off, and then when I leave, it's warm out. So I left my sweater at work, and the next morning I need a sweater, so I grab a different sweater. You see what's happening here?
Yeah, what you need is one of those little portable hangers, and then just hang them up. You'd be like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Put on a different sweater.
Or a sweater that yells at me when I'm leaving the room. Don't forget me. That would be helpful. It's all right. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. Non-day with day weather. So, yeah, this is a yo-yo. And I don't mind the yo-yo around this time of year as far as temperatures go, but really could use some rain right about now. If we go to the ice box where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, Frank, I want you to picture. Go back. We're going to go to when you were a young man. And
it was just yesterday.
It was, sure it was. And let's see, your mom had to slam on the brakes when she was driving.
Yeah, and then she put her arm out.
Yes, she put her arm out. Yeah. Okay. And did you notice that as she got older, that, I mean, when she was a young mom, you probably hit a bony arm.
Right.
But as she got older, that little flap of skin began to develop underneath there, which made it a lot softer to run into.
Right. And at the time, too, who wore seatbelts?
Now, that was my next thing, because
hardly anybody.
Yes, if we had proper seatbelts and restraints and so on. In fact, as a kid, you would not have been sitting up front with her. Not today.
Yeah.
You'd be in the back seat. If you're young, very young, you're turned backwards. But as you get older, you face forward, and then they have you all restrained in and so on. But back then,
Nobody wore seatbelts.
No.
Nobody did.
You can go ahead and just eat windshield like everybody else, kiddo.
Oh, I know. I went through driver's ed, and they showed this movie. It was called Death on the Highway.
Oh, my God.
This is accidents from like the 50s and 60s, and they colored in certain blood and limbs and stuff like that. See? No speeding. Wear your seatbelts. You're going to end up like these people.
This could happen. In the meantime...
And they're all muscle cars that have been going about 150 miles an hour on a two-lane highway in North Carolina somewhere, you know.
Yeah. And I told you this before, my parents they got that Vista Cruiser station wagon.
Oh, yeah.
And so the seats in the back, my sister and I called the backy back. And when
and faced reverse.
Actually,
out the back
our
window.
Seats faced each other. We would put these two bench seats up. My sister and I looked at each other. And if I wanted to go visit Mom, because I was sick of my sister, I could crawl all the way up to the front with my parents. And that was okay. No seatbelts, nothing. And not a single cop would pull us over.
No.
Back then. But I didn't have to worry because I knew that if we got into an accident, what was the speed limit back then? A lot lower.
It may be actually the same.
Really?
But that arm...
Oh, yeah.
The long arm of the parents.
Mom had me. I wasn't worried.
All right, college athletics. The University of Wyoming volleyball team will not play San Jose State this week due to San Jose State having a transgender player. Cowgirl volleyball team obviously had a significant amount of input in this decision not to play, with issues of fairness and safety at the forefront. San Jose State player in question is redshirt senior Blair Fleming, who is an outside hitter with the Spartans and with 119 kills so far this season. Female athletes have been very, very vocal about biological males playing against them, and Boise State also also refused to play San Jose State. UW will forfeit the match that was scheduled for Laramie, and San Jose State was 9-0 so far. High school volleyball, Riverton beating the Trone in 5 sets last night. Glen Rock lost to Rollins in 3 sets. Tonight, Laramie, the number 1 ranked team in 4A, will be at Cheyenne East, and Cheyenne South will be at Cheyenne Central. Junior college volleyball, Casper College is 4-17 after a road loss to Central Wyoming on Friday, and then a 3-0 win over Northwest DePaul on Saturday. Birds will host Western Wyoming from Rock Springs this evening at 6 p.m. at the Erickson. On Thursday, they will host. Their next game will be against Western Wyoming from Rock Springs at the Erickson Gym. The LCCC volleyball team 6-14 after a 5-set win over Gillette College on Friday and a 4-set loss to Western Nebraska on Thursday. Golden Eagles will host Central Wyoming on Friday. National Football League, a few former Wyoming Cowboys were in action on Sunday for their respective teams. Casper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson with 10 tackles in the Bengals' 34-24 win over Carolina. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen had a rough Sunday night game against Baltimore, losing 35-10, and he was just 16 of 29 for 180 yards. And New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson had 2 tackles in the Saints' 26-24 loss to Atlanta. Our latest Wild Preps high school football poll is out. Sheridan remains number 1 in 4A with Campbell County 2, Cheyenne East 3, and the Toronto 4, Kelly Walls 5. Star Valley and Cody still number 1 in the 1 and 2 in 3A, followed by Buffalo, Douglas, and Riverton. And 2A, Mountain View and Bighorn still 1-2, with Worland, Lovell, and Cokeville rounding out the top 5. In 1-8, 9-man, Lingo, Fort Laramie, and Pine Bluffs still 1-2, with Saratoga 3rd, Lusk 4th, and Southeast 5th. And in 1A, 6-man, Little Snake River and Encampment 1 and 2, with Burlington 3rd, Matiti 4th, and Riverside 5th. And that's it in sports.
Mandy May wants you to know Frank is still wet behind the ears compared to my age. Love you, Frank. So if that's the case, if you're that much older than Frank, Mandy, I would like you to look down at what's beneath your shoes right now. See that dirt?
Yeah.
You are older than that dirt.
I am the same age as Chewbacca in Star Wars.
Wow, okay.
You know how old Chewbacca is?
No.
300 years old.
Wow,
That's what they said in the last movie.
See, now,
he's 300 years old. That's how old I am.
I do like...
I look pretty good for 300, don't you think?
Well, back when Betty White was still alive, people were saying she literally is older than sliced bread, and she was. When you look at
they didn't invent knives by then?
They did. Yeah, no, they did. But sliced bread is more of a recent invention. When were you born, Frank? Look it up. You might be older than sliced bread.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up for you. I'll talk to you about it next hour.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Frank. Hey, we do have a guest coming up next hour. This has to do with the vice presidential debate last night, but it's the VA Undersecretary Paul Lawrence, and he worked under President Trump. He wants to talk about last night's vice presidential debate. We'll get his opinion. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Please, no! No! Oh, yeah!
The weekend.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Wednesday, and I'm, over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
That was actually a thing. I played that now and then, and I have to remind people that there was a time, it's a few years ago, that dyeing the armpit hair, and ladies too, by the way, it wasn't just guys. I mean, it was both. Dyeing armpit hair was considered a cool trend, and that cool trend was not just a single color, sometimes rainbow flavors, stuff like that. All right, so last night there was a vice presidential debate, as you know, and we've been talking a little bit about that this morning. Well, with me on the phone right now, VA Undersecretary Paul Lawrence. Good morning, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Glenn, and thanks for caring about our veterans.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit also about, so people know who you are. You worked under President Trump for a while, correct?
That's right. I was at the VA under President Trump. I was the Undersecretary for Benefits. I took care of all the benefits veterans get. Big deal. 6 million veterans get benefits every month. Send out about more than $100 billion.
Okay. Now, the debate last night to you was of importance, partly because we actually have two people there who did serve in the military. And so when you take a look at their two records, how do you see it?
Well, it's interesting because, of course, they both talked about using the GI Bill, right, going to college because of their service. So that's really a great story, but we didn't really get into it. But, of course, J.D. Vance has been pretty clear. Terrible upbringing, graduates from high school, doesn't know what to do, joins the Marine, changes his life, and now he's into public service. But, of course, as Governor Wals has, consistently misrepresented his service, so he doesn't talk about it. And even when he got uncalled on being in China when he wasn't really there, he admits he gets caught and he fumbles around. So I think it's two very different paths. And I will tell you this, something for veterans to think about was when Governor Wals was Congressman Wals, he voted against one of the most important pieces of legislation President Trump introduced, which was to give veterans choice and allow them to get their health care in the community instead of having have to drive hours to a VA medical center. So in terms of future care for our veterans, I think we should be very suspect of Governor Wals.
Okay. To me, it always seems that for those people who served, let's say somebody had a job, as one of my favorite phrases I've heard, in the rear with the gear. So it wasn't particularly a glamorous job, but still they served their time and they're honest about what they did. I think one of the biggest offenses to those people who've done military service is when somebody lies about their record and tries to make it sound like they did something a lot more than they ever did. That misrepresentation seems to offend more than anything else.
Absolutely. You couldn't have nailed it better. Everybody talks about their service precisely because they know it's all on record. You're going to eventually get caught if you lied, right? And we need to be clear. Most people don't serve in combat. Most people are doing support jobs. I did a support job. You need to be very clear. And so when it gets misrepresented, you're just like, oh, man, that's really just doesn't sit well. So you're absolutely right. And then, of course, it wasn't just that. It was consistently misrepresented. And when people misrepresented, he didn't, tell them, oh, that's not right. So really, it really is just troubling.
Okay. I'm talking with former VA Undersecretary Paul Lawrence, which, by the way, Paul, what are you doing with yourself these days after having served with President Trump?
Oh, I've written a couple of books, and I returned to the private sector as a consultant. I serve on some boards and to help some people help veterans.
Okay. So if you watched last night's debate, and what was your takeaway? I'll tell you what some listeners said right away, no matter who you thought might have done better in the debate. Everybody's saying it seemed like an actual real debate. It wasn't a name-calling fest like we had before.
That's exactly right. Very civil, and that's great to return back to the future, as they say. I think we saw two very different visions of a future, right? So J.D. Vance talked about what President Trump had done, low inflation, high wages, peace, and, sort of points out that's what he will do again. Then you had Governor Wals talking about the incumbent who's been there for almost 4 years, talking about stuff one day she might do. And so as they say, businessmen make plans and get things done. Politicians make promises. So I think it's a very different offering.
Let's take a look at who you think would do better in the office, considering now where we are at this point. World affairs have reached a boiling over point between Ukraine and China and what's happening in the Middle East right now as well with Israel. So that's somebody who's got to be able to handle a lot of irons in the fire on this one and not get us involved in a war worldwide. I mean, we'd be involved in so many different conflicts at once if we really try to take on everything. There's absolutely no way to do this. So I think I know where you're going with this, Paul, but who's better qualified and why?
Well, I think I would opt towards President Trump. Peace broke out when he was there. Remember the Abraham Accords, right? Peace throughout the Mideast and the like. We didn't have conflict and Americans weren't getting killed. I think what you're seeing right now is problems because we are seen as weak. And I think if Kamala Harris continues, that perception will continue and we will be more at risk. It's like President Reagan used to say all the time, peace through strength, and that's what we need to return to.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit about, since you were dealing with Veterans Affairs while you were working for President Trump, what would see under a Harris administration or under a Trump administration as far as veterans getting the help that they need?
Certainly. Well, if you remember, President Trump always supported our veterans. When he was in office, there was a multiple series of landmark legislations. Remember, he used to joke about laws that enabled him to fire bad VA employees. They changed the GI Bill to extend that benefit. They made the process of appealing better. They provided choice. And also we did something that had been waiting a long time, which is get Navy sailors access to health care because they've been exposed to Agent Orange in the Vietnam War, and that took a long time. These guys now, and we would assume this will continue, have really paid not that much attention to VA. Again, Congressman Wals voted against legislation, and that was wrong. And then Kamala Harris has really paid no attention. So I would suspect they would put this on the back burner and let it just kind of, go along as is, and not return it to the place it needs to be to get veterans world-class care.
There was a period of time, and I'd love to know if you can update me on what you think is the situation with veterans hospitals around the country, because during the Obama years, and I think it started before the Obama years, but reached ahead during the Obama administrations, veterans hospitals across the country were just some of the worst places on earth to send anybody who was in need of care. And a lot of money was thrown at the problem, but as you know, throwing money at the problem doesn't necessarily solve the problem. So have those hospitals improved since then? Where are we at?
Right. Well, you were talking about the time in 2014 where veterans were trying to get care and the VA employees were lying. Instead, they were waiting in line, and some died while they were waiting to get care. That led to, President Trump and his efforts to get veterans care. What we figured out was you can't make veterans wait. You can get them care in the community. So now there's a law that says if it takes too long to get an appointment or you have to drive too far, you can get care in your community. So that law is in effect, and during the Trump administration, it was aggressively executed. Presently, this team is really dragging their feet, and in some places they don't let veterans go into the community. They claim it's too expensive, but it's not. So really, the community care is really a big issue for veterans because it's a convenience and a timeliness. You can only imagine if you need mental health care, you don't want to be told to wait.
Okay, I'm talking with Paul Lawrence. He was Undersecretary under President Trump for Veterans Affairs. So if Trump gets this gig back, is he going to call you up and offer you your old job?
Well, everybody says when the president calls, you always say yes. I mean, it would be great if he won. It'd be great to get a chance to go back and complete the things we were working on before we all left. So, of course, I'd love to continue to help him.
All right. Hey, thank you for coming on this morning, Mr. Lawrence. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Glenn. Take care.
It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
Almost 8:20. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Now comes the most dangerous time of the day for this program. Every single day at this time, it is open phones.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in. And let's do this thing.
888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject, fine by me. A couple of topics I have for you here and these are good articles from Wildfile. Property tax reform is now on the November ballot, so here's what you need to know. In November general election, Wyoming voters will decide on the fate of a constitutional amendment set in motion by the lawmakers in 2023 to adjust residential property taxes. And it talks about how property taxes have surged and why. Meanwhile, achieving more robust property tax reform, the story says, has proven to be complicated for the legislator. For one, property taxes fund education and local governments, so cutting them risks drying up revenue for public services. Now, my answer to that is, no, it doesn't. No, it really doesn't. Look, okay, we were doing just fine with property taxes at the lower rate they were at. There wasn't a problem. Then all of a sudden, property taxes surged up. To bring them back down to where they were before shouldn't be a problem if we were doing just fine before. All right. Another challenge lies in Wyoming. Well, I know some lawmakers out there and some local governments, you're cutting the funding. No, you got yourself a nice big bump. We're taking it back. But, okay, another challenge lies in the Wyoming Constitution, which groups residential property in the same tax as commercial and residential properties. The categorization largely prevents lawmakers from making isolated changes to how homes are taxed. It's also what inspired the legislature to pass a resolution in 2023 allowing voters to decide in November whether to amend the Constitution and separate residential property tax into its own class. If successful, the story says, the amendment would also grant the legislature the authority to create a subclass specifically for owner-occupied primary residences. Okay. The story goes on a little bit there with the other background and details. Wildfile has the story. My answer to this is keep it simple. Remember, I wrote that book, which is still available out there, by the way, The Uncomplicated Life. And I've been thinking about writing for quite some time a follow-up to that, which would be more about how we live with an uncomplicated government, which would solve so many problems. But let's take a look at it through the lens of my book, The Uncomplicated Life. One of the things I said is if you ever go to get into, let's say, a contract, for example, and it's filled with complicated language and you can't understand what's being said, then don't sign it. It's convoluted and complicated for a reason, and you should stay away from it. Keep it simple. And the same thing should be with our property taxes. Personally, as the proposal that is going to be on the ballot, as I'm currently reading it, I would be opposed to. Not that I'm not opposed to property tax reform in Wyoming. I am. I am in favor of property tax reform in Wyoming, but I want to see it done in more of a simple way. Complicating the issue is not solving the issue. It just makes it more complicated. And as I said before, there are those that I've talked to who their job is to go out and assess your property, your local property tax assessors. I've talked with several around the state of Wyoming, just people who have a job assessing taxes. This is what they do. And I've asked them about the process. And when they get right down to it, there's good chunks of the process that they're not entirely sure of how this is supposed to work. They know that they grab numbers and they put it into a program and it spits out what your taxes are supposed to be. That's basically what's going on. And how the system works is a bit convoluted. And that's where I say, let's do it differently then. Let's not do it this way. Let's do something different. Now, one of the ideas that I liked, and I even had Governor Gordon on this program during the heat of last Wyoming legislative session, he was even in favor of a system that would replace your property tax with essentially a sales tax. And if you're thinking, well, that puts up prices on some things, yes. But a good chunk of that sales tax goes to people who are passing through the state as tourists and so on, although you would pay some more in sales tax. But your property taxes get erased. And if you're thinking, well, I rent, if you're a renter, well, that doesn't help me. Sure it does, because your landlord has to pay a lot of property taxes, which you end up paying. So if you're a renter, you're still paying property taxes, but just through your land. Your landlord's not going to eat that cost. He's going to attach it to the rent. So let's eliminate that. There's an easier way to do this, and I definitely do like the idea of if you bought a home and you paid that home off, then you own that home. That's yours. And you shouldn't have to be paying rent to the government for something like this. So that, to me, that's a much simpler way of doing it. Every time, and there's been many different proposals for property taxes in the state of Wyoming. For me, every time I take a look at one of those proposals and I see how complicated they can be, I think I'm not in favor of it because it's too complicated. That's part of what got us into the situation in the first place. Now, another story also from Wildfile. Lawmakers recommend 8.5% funding bump for teachers, school, and staff. The story says, as a brother of a recent graduate from University of Wyoming College of Education, he's seen firsthand how lagging teachers' salaries in Wyoming affects the state's pool of educators. Their offer that he received an offer in Arizona was $22,000 a year more than what he did in Wyoming. So you can see how that would pull teachers out of the state of Wyoming. Now, the story goes into a lot of detail, which I'm okay with. But here, I'll just, again, wrap this up and let's uncomplicate it. My opinion, all right? As I've said before, Wyoming schools are too top-heavy, especially on the local level. You've got too much administration going on there. And we can cut that back. If you want to cut that back and give it to the teachers, that's a good idea. I think that would be far better than paying a bunch of administrators. Now, some administrators are needed, but not that many. Plus, we don't need big schoolhouses, big expensive buildings, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot we can do to reduce the cost of education and shift the savings to the teachers to make our salaries more competitive, is how I would do it if I were in charge of how we collect that money and where that money goes. I think it would be a much better system than what we have right now. Now, part of the reason I say that we're too top-heavy, and I'm confident in saying that, is I have talked to a couple of our superintendents of public instructions, and I've asked them that question, do you think Wyoming schools are too top-heavy? And they've said yes, but mainly on the local level. And those were people who were running our Wyoming schools that said yes, but mainly on the local level. Go take a look at your local school districts and see where that money is being spent, and is it in the classroom? So I'm in favor of, I like the idea of, hey, let's make sure our teachers' salaries are competitive. Now, where do you get the money for that? Well, you don't need to tax anymore, but you can reduce one place and shift that money over to another place, which is where the money should be spent, on good teachers in the classroom. Coming up on 8:30, local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject, fine. I'll just roll with it. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Yeah.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, on air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Or you can do what our friend AC is doing in Hillsboro. Just sent me a note because I was talking to former director of VA under President Trump. AC says, I am a vet Air Force MacDill. Oh, MacDill Air Force Base. Wow. That's Tampa Bay. I lived within sight of that. 1967, he said. I went to Vent Dentist in 72 as assignment C without dental care. Found the VA to be poor quality. 2018, wanted VA card to get discounts at Home Depot. Was not eligible, had too much money for other insurance. I needed charity care, so I have been lucky. My very rich friends have VA cards and have worked VA for things like hearing aids, too many pastries. I think we have a responsibility to vets that Deep State is being obstinate about. We need a better check on our government. Yes, and I agree. And my father, remember I home cared my dad through Alzheimer's for 6 years. Well, I tried taking him to a VA hospital, and I got him out for several, and VA doctors for several things, and got him out of there. What a mess. Honestly, what a mess. I thought they were going to kill him. I mean that seriously, so I just got him out of there. Okay, I want to go back to something I was talking about earlier this morning. So University of Wyoming women's volleyball team decided to forfeit a game against San Jose San Jose State over the team's, what they say, transgender player. Or as some of you have been saying to me this morning as I talked about it, the guy on the team. So what had happened originally, the UW girls, they were going to go ahead with the match. Then they decided not to. Now, it was their call, their decision to make, but now some pressure did come from Wyoming legislators who penned a letter to the UW president about this because the state of Wyoming had defunded, and I was in favor of this, I've been complaining about it for years, the Office of Diversity and Inclusivity and so on at UW. I've been saying for many years just needs to be closed. Well, it finally was. And to get rid of all these other DEI programs too, focus on teaching young people and not all of this nonsense, which it has been, that we're trying to indoctrinate it. Focus on teaching them what they need to learn to get out in society and make a living. So, okay, the girls decided not to play San Jose. They are the third college to decide not to play San Jose. And even the governor wrote on Twitter, I keep calling it Twitter, that he agrees with the girls' decision. And even here in the state of Wyoming, there have been some checks put in place by Wyoming House and Senate and signed into law to make sure at our schools that a girls' team is a girls' team and a guys' team is a guys' team. And so we'll see what happens now. It's going to be really interesting. Do enough teams drop out to affect San Jose? What happens next? That's where I sit back with my popcorn and I just wait. All right, 888-97 was the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. We'll start off this morning by going over to the town of Mills. Judy is on the line. Hey, Jude.
Hey, good morning. I just now watched the debate last night because I was busy at our county commissioners meeting bringing up the solar farm that they're wanting to put out west. And I have to hand it to them. They listened to some of the highlight reels of what I said about water, fire suppression, and all of that. So I think, and I gave them a list of I think you guys should be asking some questions about this place, like, a bunch of them. Anyway, getting back to the debate last night, I think JD did a really good job. I think Walt has a Trump derangement syndrome. Maybe him and Liz Cheney ought to get together because everything he said about Trump not doing this or doing that was lies. And then when they tried to fact check JD Vance, he jumped right on it. So it was 3-1, like of course it always is. And like one of your guys called this morning and said, but why can't we have one of the right-leaning guys like Tucker or Hannity or something and a left, and then we might get a fair debate. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, after a couple hours, they were talking about what would you do with the strike of the dock workers, and Walt just goes off on this tangent about, well, Trump doesn't know what he's doing. But anyway, the point is, I hope America got to see, because Tim, I'll tell you a little story about Tim real quick. He called Trump one time when Minnesota was burning. And he said that outside of his house, this Walt, there were hundreds of people with American flags, and he and his wife were scared to death. Mm-hmm. Would he call and call for these people to leave? And Trump did, as a favor to him. Mm-hmm. And this is how he talks about him. Right. All those people put their flags down and left, because Trump had asked them to do so. And then he turns around and he's trying to backstab them like this. That shows you the Democrat Party. That shows you the Rhino Party, the warmongers. So anyway, that's my thought.
All right. Thank you, Jude. Off we go again to Mills. Dave wants to talk about UW volleyball. Morning, Dave.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. What you got for me?
Well, I've been saying for decades with these transgender players that a real easy across-the-board fix would be to give them their own category, not men's, not women. It doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it confused, doesn't matter. But let them compete against each other. That's simple.
Mm-hmm. I think, and I understand what you're saying, I think that the trans players would argue, oh, no, I've made my decision. I'm a woman, so I should be on the women's team. But you're saying that puts them in the third category. They're neither man nor woman? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That would be interesting to see. I don't think it'll go that way, but it would be interesting to see if they did put their own league together as to what that would look like and play like.
Yes, I agree.
All right.
And it would solve a lot of problems.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. 888-97 was the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. So, yeah, okay, if you're just joining me, UW girls volleyball, they were going to play San Jose, and they decided just to forfeit the match. They're the third school to do so. And their answer is, well, there's a member on that team who's a guy, and this is supposed to be ladies, girls, if you will, women's volleyball. And so, no, we can't have someone who's a biological male on your team. And they even do cite some, there's several reasons why, but one of the reasons they cite is even safety reasons. I'd have to go back and dig up the story again, but it was an issue earlier this year, last year I think it was, where there was a volleyball game and there was a biological male on the team, and he spiked the ball and hit a young lady in the head hard. And when I say knocked her out, I mean, and knocked her out. So that became an issue with the power that this guy possessed to be able to do that to a female player as to whether we should have a mix here or should it be women's volleyball, men's volleyball. So that's where I think UW, I don't want to speak for the girls, but I think that's where they come down on this. There was also, again, the Wyoming House and Senate. Some members penned a letter to the president of the university trying to put pressure on him. Don't forget, basically, they're saying that where your funding comes from is part of what the letter was about. 8:45 is the time. Wake Up, Wyoming.
Wake Up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
8:48 is the time. Wake Up, Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, I just decided what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Oh, I need a new golf bag. No, I need
I'm not spending that
some
kind
sunglasses,
of money. No, Now, here's, I've noticed the back of your car has a dent. Yeah.
On the side it does, yeah.
Yes, a little wrinkle back there. Yeah. I think one of the greatest ideas that money-saving ideas anyone ever came up with are these stickers you put on the dent that makes it funny.
Well, and what would you recommend?
Okay, well, let's go through a few here. One of them is the coyote from the Roadrunner, his silhouette as if he went splat.
That wouldn't be so bad, yeah.
Okay, now, since you're a sports fan, there's a silhouette of a guy swinging a baseball bat, and he's hitting your dent.
I go for that, yeah.
Okay, let me see. POW, the word POW could be put there. There's also literally a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
If you would like just to have a Band-Aid put over it.
It's going to be a pretty big Band-Aid for that one.
Kind of, yeah. Let's see. There's another one. It's a shoe print, like somebody kicked it.
Okay, I'll take that one too.
Okay.
And we may have to put all of them on there, really.
We might have to, yeah, because it is quite a few kind of dents here. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, here's a Band-Aid that says ouch.
Yeah?
That's not too bad. Okay.
We can do better.
I got it. This one, it looks very, it's a picture, but it looks very 3D. As if somebody threw a basketball and it got stuck into the side of your car.
Okay. That's a good one, too.
Not bad. Okay. Well, you didn't sound as enthusiastic about that.
I like the one with the baseball bats.
Okay.
And the Wile E. Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote or the baseball bat. You want one or the other?
Or both.
I could have the baseball player hitting Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, you could.
Right there on the dent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I have other dents too, though.
Okay, there's the word oops. There's the word pow. If you want that.
No.
Yeah, okay. All
There's
right.
the Band-Aid thing, actually.
How about the one from Monty Python, 'Tis But a Scratch?
Yes.
Yeah, you see, now everybody understands that one.
It's only a flesh wound.
Yes.
All right, college athletics. The University of Wyoming volleyball team will not play San Jose State this weekend due to the fact that San Jose State has a transgender player. The Cowgirl team obviously had significant amount of input into this decision not to play, with issues of fairness and safety at the forefront. The San Jose State player in question is redshirt senior Blair Fleming, who is an outside hitter with the Spartan team and has 119 kills so far this season. Now, female athletes have been very, very vocal vocal about biological males playing against them. And Boise State also refused to play San Jose State in volleyball. UW will forfeit the match that was scheduled for Laramie this weekend. In high school volleyball, Riverton over Natrona in 5 sets. Glen Rock lost to Rollins in 3 sets. Tonight, Laramie, the number 1 rated team in 4A, will be at Cheyenne East, and Cheyenne South will be at Cheyenne Central. Junior college volleyball, Casper College 4-17 after a road loss to Central Wyoming in 4 sets and a 3-0 win over Northwest DePaul. The Birds will host Western Wyoming tomorrow at the Erickson Gym at 6 p.m. The LCCC volleyball team 6-14 after a 5-set win over Gillette College on Friday and a 4-set loss to Western Nebraska on Tuesday. The Golden Eagles will host Central Wyoming on Friday. The National Football League, a few former Wyoming Cowboys were in action on Sunday for their respective teams. Gasper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson with 10 tackles in the Bengals' 34-24 win over Carolina. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen had a rough Sunday night game against Baltimore as the Bills lost 35-10. He was just 16 of 29 for 180 yards. And New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson with 2 tackles in the Saints' 26-24 defeat to the Atlanta Falcons. Our latest WyoPreps.com high school football poll is out. Sheridan and Campbell County still 1-2 in 4A, followed by Cheyenne East, Natrona, and Cali Wals. Star Valley and Cody still 1-2 in 3A, followed by Buffalo, Douglas, and Riverton. In 2A, Mountain View and Bighorn still 1-2, with Worland 3rd, Level 4th, and Cokeville 5th. In 1A 9-man, Lingo Fort, Laramie, and Pine Bluff still 1-2, with Saratoga 3rd, Lusk 4th, and Southeast 5th. And in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River and Encampment still 1-2, with Burlington 3rd, Meeteetse 4th, and Riverside 5th. And that's in sports.
Okay, so you've been to this place, I know. Of course, big fire up in the Big Horns.
Well, it's right over by Dayton, and it's literally, I've been to football games there. It's a tremendous place to watch a football game. Very, very scenic. And if you were to look, if you're on the side where the stands are and just look out that way,
there's
it is.
Right there. There's
there
pictures
it is
of the fire coming right up to the school. Now, I've been up on 14 up to the top. They have an overlook there. And I've actually helped a couple of times. There was some parasailers, not parasailers, but
they jump off the hill.
Yeah, basically, they jump off with the gliders.
Paragliders.
And paragliders. And what they would do, they turned to a friend of mine that I had driven up there with, and they said, hey, we're about to launch here, but we need someone. Could you drive our pickup truck down to the school? And literally, they would go way up and hover around up in the thermals. And when they decided to come down, they would land
right at the
school, which is right there at the bottom. Well, the fire was like licking the doorsteps of the school yesterday. It got close. It really. So I've mentioned that because I know you spend a lot of time there. All right, thank you, Frank. It's a beautiful. Dayton's a beautiful little town. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of, and we're going to roll into more open phones at 9 o'clock hour. So wake up, Wyoming. Six at time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday, and over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
I've actually seen somebody with rainbow-colored armpit hair. Not kidding.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Off to the phones we go. It is open phones, by the way. 888-97-WOODS. That's 888-97-WOODS. Morning, Greg.
How's it going, Glenn?
Very good. What you got?
Okay. Well, you playing that whiny girl that was going viral.
Yeah.
Really made me think that's very similar to J.D. Vance. He wrote that hillbilly elegy, whining about his life, went viral, got hired by Peter Thiel from San Francisco, and is now the slick, lying whiner backing up Donald Trump.
Really?
There's no bigger whiner than J.D. Vance, and no bigger liar.
Okay.
It was on display last night.
Yeah,
is
that what you got out of that? Okay, because I take a look at J.D. Vance, who was not whining, but pointing out his very humble beginnings, and then did something about it.
You mean Mr. Bowman changed his name after Yale and wrote some slick thing that's basically a memoir to get elected?
Oh, is that what you think that was? Look, everybody who goes to get elected writes a book.
I grew up near Middletown. I know where JD went through.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, but you didn't know JD. And also, everybody who goes to run for office writes some kind of book about himself. I remember when Obama was going to run for office, he basically...
I think it's about JD. JD lying in the hillbilly elevator.
Yes, okay. I tell you what, if you want to go there, Greg, wait. If you want to go there, Greg, you tell me who's not lying.
Well, Mr. Wals gave a beautiful description
but Wals is not a liar.
Well in Minnesota.
Wals is not. Wait. Wals is not a liar. Let's talk about Waltz's record in the military to begin with. Wals is not a liar.
Okay, let's describe Tiananmen Square. If I showed up as a 17-year-old in August, 1 month after Tiananmen Square, you get immersed in that environment. Again, he's a young kid.
Right.
So
Waltz is a chronic liar. Okay. So let's take a look at it. So no, you want to call. But here's my point, Greg. Greg. Here's my point. You want to call out someone for being a liar. Okay, fine. I'll go ahead and just say to you, fine. J.D. Vance is a liar, and so is Waltz, and so does Harris, and I've spent a career picking on Biden as being a liar. You want to pick on Trump? Sure, he lies too. Obama's a liar. Boy, don't get me started on the Clintons, for God's sakes.
Liars than the GOP.
And what about the Clintons, though?
Secretary of State.
So you're avoiding the question.
Elected him based on the 2020 lie.
Yes, Greg, you avoid the question as usual. Show me who's not a liar.
No.
Show me who's not a liar.
You're trying to equate again. You're trying to normalize.
I'm not trying to normalize anything. No, wait a second, Greg. No, Greg.
Of huge lies by Republicans.
Greg, once again, you completely misunderstand my motives. As the libertarian guy in the room, I like to stand back and watch everybody. And I can tell you honestly, I am annoyed beyond belief with Republicans and with Democrats, both alike. And unfortunately, the people who I agree most with the Libertarian Party, you should see the nutballs they put up for election. When it comes to who runs for office in America, Libertarians are about the worst. The only people worse at putting up political candidates would be the Green Party. I mean, that would be about the worst possible out there. But the point is, Greg, when I look at all political parties, there's nobody that I'm happy with. So if you're going to call the program and say, J.D. Vance is a liar, I'm not trying to normalize. My point is, you show me who's not. Show me a candidate out there who's honest. There's not many.
He's a whiny little girl.
And so, yes, and so are the rest of them, Greg. Yes, and so are the... Yeah, and for that, you want to talk about whiny. Let's go on about Kamala Harris and her cackling little annoying laugh. I mean, dear God, you want to go on about who's annoying little whatever so-and-so. I mean,
policies are fine. Her laugh's wrong. So
yes, okay.
For her laugh?
Greg, the point is, we don't have any. In my opinion, Greg, we currently don't have anyone really running who and I know Trump supporters are not going to like me for saying this. We haven't had anyone running for office in a while that I can stand up and say, boy, that's the kind of person we need to have as a president. I haven't seen that in a good long while, okay? So if you're going to call and say so-and-so's a liar, Greg, the people that you're supporting for president and vice president are liars too, and they're corrupt. So don't act like you have the high ground. That's my point.
Government. Lots of people like him. Nobody likes Donald Trump.
Greg, I'm sorry, but you don't have the high... Greg, your people suck too. You don't have the high ground on this. Your people suck too. Your people suck too. You don't have the high ground, Greg.
Mind your own business is our motto, baby.
Yep. Greg, one day when the
Mr.
Democrats...
Vance wants to register
Greg,
Woo.
one day, Greg...
In his little blue-eyed, friggin' weird look.
Greg, I'm gonna leave you with this. Wait, Greg, I'll leave you with this.
Okay.
I hope someday, much like the Republicans, the Democrats put up someone who's not a lying sack of buffalo stew, if you will, okay? Because both parties suck, okay? Thank you, Greg. My point, folks, is, and I know some of you Trump supporters aren't liking what I'm saying, but I'm being really brutally honest here, okay? I mean, let's get really brutally honest. Boy, the Clintons, what a disaster they were. And I can go back further. I can go back further with different kinds of presidents. I really did admire Ronald Reagan. I looked at Ronald Reagan and thought, that's the kind of guy I want as a president. I want that. The Clintons, dear God, what a disaster. And talk about dishonest and corrupt. Jeez. I didn't have as much of a problem with the Bushes, junior and senior, but I wasn't, for those of you who weren't entirely happy, I get that too. One of the most naive, lying, steaming piles of buffalo poop was Obama. And one of the most corrupt presidents, too, was Obama. Trump certainly had his problem. I like what Trump accomplished, but sometimes, can you understand when I say I hate it when he runs his mouth? Okay? But I really appreciate what Trump accomplished. We get into Biden, who has spent his career as a corrupt, lying, naive, I mean, on and on it goes. And Harris should not be near any political office whatsoever. I mean, she's as bad as it gets. So for Greg to call here and talk about the vice presidential debate last night and try to take the high ground. Well, J.D. Vance lied about, okay, you want to talk about something J.D. Vance lied about? Then let's go ahead and take a look at Wals and what he's lied about. I'm sorry, you're not going to find a moral high ground here when it comes to who runs for office in America and who we pick when we vote. Americans have done a lousy job for quite a while now, and we need to find some really good people. Michelle, you waste too much of your energy on that dweeb. Let me tell you something, Michelle. Let me tell you the reason that I let Greg go on like this is I don't want to be an echo chamber. I want to hear what the other side has to say. And at least Greg is not a Dave from San Francisco. The Paisan and Casper. Will somebody please show Greg the door out of town, out of state? Please, listening to that moron makes my head hurt. Okay. And he also doesn't want to give Greg a platform. But again, do you want to be an echo chamber where you only hear one point of view? I really don't want to be that kind of a program. Paul and Casper, seminar caller. Yeah. Mike from Leeds, South Dakota. Greg is a perfect example of why this country is as screwed up as it is. Crane Doctor in Sebring. Sir, you go on again and got me screaming at the radio. Scott and Shawnee. Hi, Scott. I haven't seen anyone from Shawnee before. I would say Greg is the whiny little idiot. Milo in Fort Danger. Greg is a liar. Smalls in Casper. Oh, my God. Greg is going there with Walt. What an asshat. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Montana Cheyenne says, I'm from a middle-class family. 9:16 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
Brendan is in Greeley. Morning, Brendan. Was that Dave's cousin that called? No, that was Greg, who lives in Laramie, Wyoming. Chet and Yoder. Sorry, I heard Greg, so I watched a little about Israel and Hezbollah. And then there's I-80 John, who, believe it or not, is on my side on something. He says, morning, Glenn, not giving Greg a platform would be censorship, in his opinion. Let the fool ramble on, and then everyone knows he's a naive fool. Well, yeah. But my point, though, in bringing and allowing Greg on is, and I say this, if you listen to some of the promos for this program, some of the liners that we play, things like that, Also, top of the hour, I play that little opener at the top of the hour, which explains what this show is about. And one of the things that I say in there is, I'm not going to hang up on you if you disagree with me, as long as you're not an obnoxious jerk. Now, I don't mind a heated debate. Heated debates are fine. That's good. In that sense, I find Greg to be very entertaining. Okay. But he's, at least, though, he's not a Dave from San Francisco. That I just can't take. Dave just gets obnoxious and gets insulting right away. And he doesn't even discuss a topic. He just starts insulting people, which is a waste of time. So I hang up on him. He's the only person I hang up on. But when people call and disagree, I want to have them on. And what I never want to do is be like you'll hear a lot of liberal talk show hosts do, what few liberal talk show hosts are out there. But also if you ever listen to or watch network television, CNN, MSNBC, they have someone on who disagrees with them and is also winning the argument against the host, and the host just cuts them off and gets them off air. And I won't do that. I want an open discussion. And sometimes that's hard to handle. Sometimes it's hard to listen to, but that's okay. I can take it. And dare I say, you should be able to take it too. It's okay to have someone who really disagrees with you, and you learn how to handle your emotions so you don't get upset with Greg. I know he annoys you. Okay, I know he does. But let him go, because Greg's issues are Greg's issues, not yours. So what he was trying to say in this case was, during the debate last night, that J.D. Vance is just a liar. And my answer to that is, so if he's a liar, do you think you have the political high ground with Wals? Because Wals is obviously a liar. Obviously. So where are you holding the political high ground here? And he really can't answer that. He really can't. As usual, Greg really can't answer that. He wants to make some moral equivalency or grab the political high ground, but he can't do it with the people that the Democrats are currently running. Even before we had Harris, when they were running Biden, they were lying about Biden's condition, not just the Biden campaign in the White House, but even the media was lying about Biden's condition. But even if Biden was not suffering from dementia, let's back up a bit. Biden has spent a political career being not just naive and stupid, and I don't say that lightly, I mean it, but also a corrupt liar. And yet this is someone that Greg has called and defended on many occasions. So you see, I'm not afraid of debating Greg. And if I could offer you something, if you don't mind, don't tune out when he calls in. I know it's hard to handle. But if you want to be able to win the day, win the debate, win the day, you're going to have to deal with people like that. Now, here's another side note. I often don't debate people like Greg to convince Greg or Dave in San Francisco. Those people can't be convinced. They're gone. I'm never convincing of anything. It's not going to happen. But on the other hand, there are people out there who are listening who are not totally sure what they believe yet. And they're listening. And this is a perfect opportunity to have this discussion in front of them. Many times I found myself debating someone, whether on air or off air somewhere else. And I'm not trying to convince the person I'm debating with, because again, they're gone. No matter what I say, no matter what evidence I show, they're not listening. But the people who are listening to our discussion can be convinced. And there's what we need to do, is get outside the echo chamber. There's a whole list of people out there who could be swayed. And we're not going to sway them by not having the conversation. We're going to sway them by having the conversation, and in the most public possible way. So it's a good idea to debate someone, even in publicly, not to get upset. Don't go with your emotions. Be the rational one. Every now and then, and I appreciate the compliment, folks, every now and then somebody will send me a note. You're so patient with Greg. Usually I am. And the reason why is because I want to show that I'm the rational one and let Greg be Greg. And that's what helps convince people. What do you do in Evansville? Greg has to be really stupid to want 4 more years of the same crap. Talk about Harris accomplished, well, anything that Harris has ever really accomplished, or for that matter, Biden. And again, one of the most corrupt administrations in the history of corrupt administrations was the Obama administration. Running close behind that were the Clintons. I mean, honestly, who's going to pick the moral high ground here? And you Republicans, except for Ronald Reagan, you've had problems too with your presidents. Americans we've just not been good at finding good people to run and electing good people. We don't have a great track record of it. That's something we need to fix. Coming up on 9:30, local news coming away after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. Wake Up Wyoming.
Weekend. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I was going to go on to something else, but you guys are still talking about Greg, so I'll go with that, which is fine. By the way, most of these people are sending me notes off the Wake Up Wyoming app. Now, if you haven't tried that, grab your mobile device, phone, whatever it is, and just go to your app store and just type in Wake Up Wyoming, and there's the app. And it's free. It does a lot. You can listen to old programs, which are condensed to save time, and you can listen on your time for free and share them and pause them and so on. You can also hit the chat option and send me a text message if you want to do that, and I answer back on the air, which is what I'm doing right now. And there's a lot of other options and features on there, too, and it's all just free to you, so it's a Wake Up Wyoming app. So, okay. Mike from Leeds, South Dakota. The parties pick their candidates. That's why it is so corrupt. I'm talking about corrupt candidates and horrible candidates. Trump is the exception. Well, now, remember, though, as the parties pick their candidates, it's the people of those parties picking the candidates. Each political party, anybody can run, and the members of that party, so if you're a Republican, you get to vote, and this is why so many political parties wind up with just some horrible people. You could have done better. First off, we need better people to run for every kind of political office. Because oftentimes when someone goes to run for office, in most cases, I don't trust them because they're running for political office. I find very few good people actually want to run for political office. And then once they get elected, do they stay good? But then the next one is Justin Ram from Casper. Greg is like my friend from all my life. He gets his news from Facebook, has no real facts to fall onto, backs up his opinion. He just hates the right, and so he believes he is right in his opinion. Lost in space and likes it. Sheltered from reality. Well, here's the thing I find, and I'm going to be, just very plain with people in general, okay? This is hard to say, hard for some people to hear. But in general, I have at times had discussions with Democrats who I know, as I listen to them talk, filter out certain information they don't want to hear. So, for example, when Greg calls and says, well, the debate last night, J.D. Vance is a liar. I mean, he's lied about his past. He's a liar. Okay. So, Wals, what about him? Is he a liar? And what you heard was Greg blocks that. He doesn't want that to be true. He completely blocks that. Okay. Can't handle that that's true. But now, I find Republicans do the same thing. Republicans will block any information that they don't want to hear. When someone, like even a Trump, when someone that they really like has made a big mistake or did something dishonest, they will intentionally block it and make excuses for it. This is human nature. It's not a left versus right thing. It's human nature. And so if you really want to try an interesting trick, that's very hard and disturbing to do, step back and watch everything from afar. Imagine yourself as someone from another country, you've never been to America, and you're watching American politics, and you have no concept of left versus right, and you're just watching American politics and how people act. Try viewing it from that perspective. Yeah, you'll see how people get into their tribes and believe whatever their tribe says and will defend their tribe no matter what. And if their guy turns out to be corrupt, like when they were defending Biden, when they were defending Obama as examples, no matter what. And conservatives do that too. It's human nature. Milo in Fort Danger. I don't understand why people who hate conservatives live in conservative states. Move to Denver or Seattle or maybe Portland. Yeah, well, okay. That's another one of those America lover to leave it kind of things, isn't it? You know, you really don't like the country, or you could stay and try to change the place, whatever it is. And maybe, though, Milo, just tossing this out there, maybe it's because they like something about Wyoming other than the politics. Maybe that's the case. They like Wyoming. They just don't like Wyoming politics, but they like Wyoming. And so they'll stay anyway, and politics has nothing to do with it. And that very well may be the case with someone like Greg, that he'll stay in Wyoming because he likes the state, but doesn't like the state's politics. And so we'll do what he can to change it. Now, if you want to give, I know you guys were really, Greg called, therefore you were annoyed, and I get it. But I'm going to give Greg credit for something, and I think you should too. Greg has the guts to call the show and put himself out there. And he knows how you're going to react to him. He knows when he talks the way you're going to react to him, and he doesn't care. And that's where I take a look at the phone calls we get from Greg, and I think I got to hand it to the guy, even though he and I have agreed on a couple of minor things that didn't matter anyway. Stupid little things that have nothing to do with anything substantial. Other than that, Greg and I disagree on everything. He knows that when he calls into this program, people right away are going to get annoyed and start sending me notes, which I get, by the way. God, just hang up on him already. God, what a loser, what a jerk, what a moron. He doesn't even think. He knows he's going to get that. And yet, he's got the nerve not just to listen to the program. He'll listen to the program. Even though he disagrees with everything he hears on the program, he listens to it. And then he calls in and he puts himself out there regardless. So like him or not, give him credit for that. On that note, I'm going to play this next thing just for Greg.
Concerns for the president's health are growing after the Secret Service reportedly discovered Joe Biden attempting to dig what appears to be his own grave on the White House lawn. Agents reported that the 81-year-old Biden was panting from exertion from the effort of digging the hole, which was nearly 5 feet deep, and that his hands and fingernails were caked in dirt. The White House has since denied that Biden was digging his own grave and insisted he was merely digging a large hole.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
The Icebox we go, Frank Gambino waiting by. Okay, Frank, let's real quick here go to the state of Arkansas, okay?
Yes.
And by the way, I do have a joke I've been telling for several decades now. Alabama is the only state that Arkansas is allowed to make fun of.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they have their Arkansas Goat Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Food trucks, music, vendors, right? The Goat Parade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Goat Costume Contest.
Well, of course.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and then the Goat Lingerie Show.
No.
Yes. It's in the ad.
No.
Yeah, so there it is. So I just kind of wondered. I guess maybe you go to Victoria's Secrets and you just kind of show
No, they're goats
in lingerie department and you try to fit that stuff on them. And how do you know whether it looks good on the goat or not?
The goat doesn't care.
The goat doesn't care at all. If the goat knew what was going on, the goat would definitely leave that state.
I don't even want to picture that.
Well, I think it's probably the favorite part of the parade. What I think is even more
for people
disturbing-
in Arkansas, it is.
Yes. Wait, here's what I would want to know, though. It's not what the goat is wearing during the lingerie show. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about what's the person holding the leash wearing. What's that person look like?
Lingerie too?
Yeah, I don't know. Because if they're also wearing lingerie, I mean, dear Lord, okay?
That's disturbing.
It's very disturbing, yes. But, I mean, if you're living in Arkansas, what the hell else do you have to do with your day?
I mean, there's suey.
Might as well go out. Then we can have a pig lingerie contest, too, while we're at it.
Yeah,
okay?
the University of Arkansas football.
Sure. Why not? Oh, is that what they have there?
Oh, yeah.
They
all yell, suey.
Oh, okay. Does anybody... do they have actual pig mascot?
Well, they're called the Razorbacks.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's it. Okay. Well, I'm not thinking like a farm pig. I'm thinking you're talking
it's
like
a mean
Razorback.
thing with big fangs and
Yeah, you don't want to come. You don't want to run across one of those in the wild. No, that sucker will take you down. So yeah, but okay. So I have that image stuck in your head for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Great. All right, in high school volleyball from last night, Riverton beat Natrona in the 4A ranks in 5 sets, and 3A Glenrock lost to Rollins in 3. Tonight back in 4A, Laramie, the number 1 rated team, will be at Cheyenne East, and Cheyenne South will be at Cheyenne Central. Junior college volleyball, Casper College is 4-17 after a road loss to Central Wyoming in 4 sets on Friday, but a 3-0 win over Northwest DePaul on Saturday. Team Bridge will host Western Wyoming from Rock Springs tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Erickson Gym. The LCCC volleyball team 6-14 after a 5-set victory over Gillette College on Friday, and then a 4-set loss to Western Nebraska earlier this week. The Golden Eagles will host Central Wyoming on Friday. The University of Wyoming volleyball team will not play San Jose State due to San Jose State having a transgender player. The Cowgirl team obviously had significant amount of input in this decision not to play, with issues like fairness and safety at the forefront. The San Jose State player in question is redshirt senior Blair Fleming, who's an outside hitter for the Spartans with 119 kills so far this season. Female athletes have been very, very vocal about biological males playing against them, and Boise State also refused to play San Jose State, so UW will forfeit that match that was scheduled for Laramie this weekend. National Football League, for a few former Wyoming Cowboys in action on Sunday for their respective teams. Casper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson with 10 tackles in the Bengals' 34-24 win over Carolina. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen had a rough Sunday night game against Buffalo as the Bills lost 35-10. He was just 16 of 29 for 180 yards in that contest. New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson with 2 tackles in the Saints' 26-24 loss to Atlanta. Our latest Wyoming Wild Preps high school football poll is out. In 4A, Sheridan still number 1, Campbell County still number 2, followed by Cheyenne East, Natrona, and Kelly Walsh. Star Valley and Cody still 1-2 in the 3A ranks, followed by Buffalo, Douglas, and Riverton. Mountain View and Bighorn still 1-2 in the 2A ranks, with Worland 3rd, Level 4th, and Cokeville 5th. In 1A 9-man, Linglefort, Laramie, and Pine Bluff still 1-2, with Saratoga 3rd, Lusk 4th, and Southeast 5th. And in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River 1, Kincampman 2, Burlington 3, Matiti 4, and Riverside 5. And that's it in sports.
Somebody hates me.
Oh,
I just got to, I get sent these commercials from out of state, Town Square Media radio stations out of state. This one's over in Oregon. Ready to get educated? Here's the perfect subscription. You see how this is going?
Okay. Who's Ed?
Educated. Educated.
Educated.
Here's the perfect subscription. Okay. You see, this is the kind of the commercial they want.
This is the kind of stuff you bang your head against the wall.
Yes. Thankfully, no one in Wyoming will ever hear this commercial. It's going to be over in Oregon.
Oh, come on, just play it just for the fun of it.
I might have to play it on the air just to show how lame they are in Oregon. Okay. I will go ahead and do this, Frank, but I'm not going to like it.
No, okay.
Coming up on some... Oh, God, I know. I really hate stuff like this. All right. It's been a great morning, folks. Thanks for all the comments and the calls. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecasts, and then I have to go and do this really stupid commercial from Lynn County, Oregon. I'm going to hate this. Wake up, Wyoming.